You're listening to the Food Truck Empire podcast, where we talk about great food, big trucks, and how to launch a profitable food truck business. Here's your host.
Yeah. Welcome to the Food Truck Empire podcast, where we put the food into the food truck. It's Friday morning, and we're all the way up to episode 28 of the show. This week, I'm chatting with Joel Paprocki of InsureMyFoodTrailer.com on reducing the risk of operating a food truck, and Paprocki also created a checklist that you can download to use with your own business today to improve the safety of your operations. But first, this week I'm happy to say that I've significantly updated my audio rig, which will hopefully translate into a better sounding podcast for you. First of all, I got a pair of Dr. Dre Beats headphones. I realize that on your end you're not going to be able to tell any difference in the show there, but I tell you what, everything that I listen to definitely sounds a lot better now than it used to within those headphones. So that's one upgrade, highly recommended if you listen to a lot of music. And second, I also created a mini sound booth in my home using a spare closet. So here's what I did. I put in a moving blanket in my closet around all the different walls in there, and I nailed a moving blanket to the wall, and doing this should absorb some of the sound, make my voice sound a lot fuller, a lot clearer. The only downside is that I'm in a closet while I'm doing this show, which is just really kind of weird. But let me know what you think of the audio and if I should keep podcasting from this location. And if you like it, of course, hit me up on iTunes or leave me a 5-star review there. Moving along. As you might know, I'm an avid reader of a lot of different blogs, and I wanted to pass along an article from Paul Miller, published a couple weeks ago about maximizing your meals per hour to increase profit. As you know, maximizing profit on a truck requires you to take full advantage of peak volume hours like lunch, and Miller provides some pro tips for optimizing your menu, your truck layout, how your employees are operating, and your payment handling, and just optimizing all of that for speeds that you can crank out more of those meals per hour, make more money, and basically maximize your profits for your business. And I've linked up to this article in the episode 28 show notes. That's it for the news this week. Don't forget to dial in and leave a voicemail message with your feedback or tips about the show at 209-309-9310, and you could get featured on the show. With that, let's dive straight into our main course. Okay, I've got Joel Paprocki on the horn with me today from InsureMyFoodTrailer.com. We're going to be discussing the importance of loss prevention for food truck and food cart businesses, and provide a simple tool you can use to reduce your own exposure to the kind of catastrophic loss that could result in financial ruin. So, Joel, we're covering some pretty heavy stuff today, basically.
Yeah, we sure are, Brett. But the thing about what can go wrong with accidents or injuries is never pleasant, but ignoring the risk doesn't make them go away. So being prepared can greatly reduce the severity and the frequency of such accidents.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And I know I provided a short introduction to you, but why don't you add just a little bit of color to your background and experience, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got involved in the food trucking industry.
Sure. I got in the insurance industry right out of college, starting and growing an insurance agency from scratch. And it's been about 10 years now. The core of my agency is home and auto insurance here locally in Austin, Texas. That portion of my business was very successful and still is today, but I wanted to also focus my insurance efforts on a personal passion of mine, which was helping and working with small businesses. So about 4 years ago, I saw a need here locally for an insurance program that understood food trailers, and food trailers is what we call food trucks and trailers in Austin. So I know every part of the country has a little bit different lingo or language for them, and most being food trucks, but here locally it's primarily food trailers. And so I saw the food trailers were covered on products that were meant for like brick and mortar companies that were leaving gaps in coverages, and I saw policies that were priced way too high because of the insurance agent or the insurance company didn't understand the food trailers. So as a fan of the food trailer movement in my city, I was upset that the insurance industry was kind of holding back the trailers and not working with them. So I reached out to insurance companies and got involved in the community, heard their concerns, joined the local Food Trail Alliance, and that all resulted in InsureMyFoodTrailer.com. And since then, the program has grown to cover food trucks and offer insurance in all but 3 states.
Basically a national insurance provider then. That was going to be one of my questions. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, okay, let's frame this conversation up first of all. For someone that doesn't know, what is loss control in terms of the food trucking industry, first of all, and how can a business owner benefit by taking action to manage a little bit of this risk?
Yeah, sure. So we get a little insurance geeky and kind of define loss control first, and the definition of that.
I love it.
So I try not to get too insurance geeky with my food trailer owners, but the loss control is practice of trying to reduce the possibility or reducing the severity of a loss or an accident. So when we're talking about insurance risk, we're talking about reducing the risk for bodily injury and/or property damage. So, but loss control can also apply to your business profits. And if you think, beyond just the insurance area, a loss to your biggest supplier due to a fire at their factory, how would you manage that? Because that's a loss that could occur. Or, for example, your freezer breaks down. How could you prevent or avoid food spoilage in that scenario? So those are all loss control measures a business can look at. So back to insurance loss control, an example would be to require anyone cutting to wear cut-resistant gloves. By doing that, you reduce the chance of someone cutting themselves, so you reduce the frequency. And if they do cut themselves, you reduce the severity of the injury. So that's one example of loss control. Another example from the property point of view would be to make deposits throughout the day if you're handling a lot of cash, and not to keep cash in the trailer overnight. And this will help reduce the severity, maybe not reduce the frequency. That's kind of, up to other measures like keeping lighting out, et cetera, but you'll definitely reduce the severity if a theft did occur from the cash. And the business owner can benefit in a few ways. First is the safety. No one wants to be injured or have an employee injured. The second is losses are expensive to the business owner, and they can even shut down the business too. And you've probably heard horror stories out there in the industry. Third is your business reputation is on the line, and you don't want to serve spoiled food, especially with social media, the way it's available these days to spread information like that.
And what are some of the most common risks then that you see for food truck owners in their own businesses?
Yeah, so the most common is theft, I think, because they're out and about, and some trailers will work late nights, or food trucks will work late nights, and then park their truck late in different areas of towns that might not be as well lit or safe, and so that's the most common thing we see. Next would be injuries to employees because of lack of proper safety training, so it's important to do that. Liquor liability from serving free beer at the trailers or food trucks. So I know a lot of people try to drum up business by offering, free beer if you come and visit them, and that can cause some liquor liability issues. And then the one that I see that gets overlooked a lot as well is not exercising proper duty owed to the customer. And what I mean is, in the legal world, you're held to a higher standard of safety when you have a business visitor than if you just had a visitor to your home. And this means the business owner must protect against foreseeable dangerous conditions. And so that you basically have to proactively, prevent dangerous conditions at all times for a business visitor. And this is a high standard, and why a checklist is important to review periodically.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, those are definitely some very clear benefits to taking a look at this. So what are some of the most common risks that you see for food truck owners in their businesses that they may not be aware of?
Yeah, and it's really mixed in the food truck industry. You have people getting into it that have been in the industry 20 years and have a lot of experience in managing either restaurants or hotels or whatever it might be. And those individuals usually have a pretty defined plan about that process. But I recommend to all food trucks and food trailers is whenever you're hiring a new employee, have them come in, work in the kitchen, see how they operate in those tight quarters. make sure, that they're safe, and also make sure they're doing a good job for your customers before you hire them. So have a trial period where they come in there and kind of shadow you for a bit.
So I think we got a good handle on what loss prevention is then, and some of the clear benefits of investing time to think a little bit more about this. So I've decided I want to take some action. What's the first step that you recommend a food truck business take?
So I recommend to start with a checklist to get ideas flowing about what risk your business faces and how to reduce those risks, or you can remove them altogether. An example would be not serving, not giving away beer. You remove that risk completely just by not taking part in that activity. And I designed the checklist using industry standards for the restaurant industry and adapted it to food trailers. So these type of checklists and ways to avoid risk have been well vetted and been used in the industry for a long time.
I'll link up to this loss prevention checklist in the show notes, of course, but can you just explain to us a little bit of a few of the different areas of a business that are covered in this checklist that you created, and explain to folks listening how to complete it?
Yeah, sure. So the checklist focuses on food operations, food handling practices, fire protection and prevention, electrical equipment, cold storage and refrigeration, slip and fall, exterior safety, and general practices. The checklist is a very, very simple set of questions. Under each category, there's a yes and no checkbox, and if you answer no to the question, this is an area that just needs attention.
And I looked through the checklist, and I think that it's really awesome. And especially once you get into it, I think it'll be pretty evident for how a food truck owner can use it to improve their own business. One thing specifically that I thought was really good in there that I wouldn't have thought of was to have your trailer, cart, or wheels either removed or protected with some type of a lock. I thought especially, we've got the winter season coming up, where maybe not so much in Texas, but at least up here in Minnesota, a lot of food trucks are shutting down for the season. Either having the wheels removed for the winter or having a lock placed on there so that it can't just get towed away was a really awesome idea for adding that extra layer of protection on there. So I think there's definitely a number of these points that I think pretty much any business owner could at least get a few new ideas from, even if they've been doing in the game for 20 years or something like that. I think there's something that everybody can benefit from by looking at this for sure.
Yeah, and I think, a list is always make sure everything gets done, because many of these might be, I knew to do that, but you might not do it unless it's on a list and you can go through it. And the other thing there is I wouldn't, just stop with just the list, but keep track of things like near misses. So, say you see someone try to steal your vehicle, but they didn't get away with it. Well, then, that could have been a loss. And you can, learn from that and find ways to prevent that. Maybe it's not park in that area again, or be near more lights, for example. For example, if someone almost tripped on a cord that you left out, but they caught their balance, that'd be another near miss. Or did, an awning on a trailer blow off, overnight when you were closed, and if you would have been open, it could have flown off and hit someone. So the list is a starting point, but you can also, build in other things by looking at, what might have happened if it weren't for other circumstances with the near misses.
Yeah, for sure. And as we know, over time, your business is going to change a little bit as you grow. Maybe you'll add on a few more employees. Maybe you'll end up investing in a second food truck. How frequently do you recommend coming back to review this checklist and make sure that everything's up to date for your business?
Yeah, so every 6 months, but always be aware and looking for hazards. So I'd always be on the lookout. And if you did, expand to a new second food trailer, when those type of events occur, you'd want to revisit it right away. The bottom line with loss control, that is the employees are going to look at the manager or the owner as what's acceptable practices. So you really have to walk the walk and not just talk the talk when it comes to the workplace safety and loss control.
Mm. Cool. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I think, like I said, I think any food truck owner would benefit from going through this checklist, and they can find out more about you, I'm sure, at insuremyfoodtrailer.com. I know you've got a lot of really good blog content that I would recommend people check out whether it's infographics and just more information about food truck insurance, I would definitely use this as a resource for finding out more information.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Brett. Yeah, we try to be a supporter of the food truck and trailer.